Imagine a city that feels like, well, like a living timeline. It's perched beautifully on a lake, and its very stones seem to whisper stories from millennia past. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Kastoria in Greece, a place so rich in history, it's often called a Byzantine castle city. And it has this astonishing collection of ancient churches.
Yeah, it's really something. And you've given us this incredible stack of sources, a fascinating master's thesis, various scholarly articles, some really compelling images too.
Cool.
So our mission basically is to sift through all of it, pull out the essential insights, from how Castoria's often tumultuous history shaped its actual urban fabric
Yeah,
to the hidden artistic gems tucked away inside its venerable walls.
exactly. We're not just, listing dates and facts. We want to uncover the surprising twists and turns of its past, reveal the unique architectural brilliance, and the stunning artistry within its churches. Some of it is really unexpected. And then we'll look at the vital modern efforts to keep this invaluable heritage alive and accessible for everyone. So get ready to connect some really interesting dots.
Okay, so to really get Castoria, we have to start way back. Its origins trace back to an ancient city, Diocletianopolis.
Diocletianopolis. Okay.
But that earlier city, it faced devastating destruction, probably the Goths, maybe late 4th century, or the Ostrogoths a bit later, between 473 and 483 AD.
Wow, so a major blow.
Oh, yeah. It really plunged the entire region into a period of significant decline. Things got pretty quiet for a while.
So it wasn't always this vibrant center we might picture. It sounds like it almost faded away. But then it saw this remarkable resurgence, didn't it? What brought it back?
It did see a resurgence, a profound one, actually, after the end of iconoclasm. That was in 843 AD.
Ah, iconoclasm, right. The whole controversy over religious images.
Exactly, a century-long debate. So when icons came back, it ushered in this new era of artistic flourishing. And that's precisely when Castoria's first Byzantine churches started popping up.
So the churches weren't just buildings, they were part of this rebirth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They became canvases for incredible art, signaling, a new era of stability and cultural revival.
And it sounds like that stability wasn't just a brief pause, the rise of the Macedonian dynasty. That brought a huge wave of political rebirth to the whole Byzantine Empire, right?
It did. Massive impact.
So how did that stability affect a city like Castoria? Was it purely political, or did it spark something deeper, maybe culturally?
Well, it's fascinating because for Castoria, that stability wasn't just about secure borders. It really laid the groundwork for an artistic renaissance.
Oh, okay.
But you're right, it wasn't always smooth sailing. Castoria seemed to be perpetually bouncing between different rulers, which, says a lot about its strategic importance in the region.
It certainly sounds like it. It went through periods of Bulgarian rule, like 927 to 969, and then again from 990 to 1018 under Tsar Samuel. Then it was liberated by Emperor John Tzimiskes in 971, and later by Basil II, the famous Bulgar slayer, in 1018. And Basil II actually used the city, didn't he? Strategically as a base for his campaigns against the Bulgarians. It really sounds like Castoria was constantly caught in these historical crosscurrents.
That's a key point.
Yeah.
Because these shifts in power, they didn't just impact who was in charge, they profoundly rippled through the city's economic life, its cultural life.
Right.
The Komnenian era, for example, especially under Alexios Komnenos, that's 1081 to 1118, that marked a real golden age of prosperity.
Okay, a high point then.
Definitely. We even see the permanent settlement of Jewish communities during this time and a boom in new churches being built, adorned with these really impressive frescoes.
That economic prosperity, it's so vividly captured by the Arab geographer Idrisi, writing back then. He described Castoria as a rich, pleasant, and populous city with a lake abundant in fish and numerous villages. It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. A thriving place.
Yeah. And speaking of major turning points, the fall of Constantinople to the Franks in 1204, that must have thrown everything into chaos again. How did Castoria handle that upheaval?
Oh, it did. Huge upheaval. Castoria became a veritable battleground. It was caught between the Empire of Nicaea, the state of Epirus, and the Bulgarians. It's back and forth. Wow. It eventually fell under the control of the Empire of Nicaea around 1252, 1253. Then the Serbian ruler Stefan Dusan conquered it twice. First briefly in 1334.
Briefly?
Yeah, it didn't last long. But then more definitively between 1342 and 1343. After Dusan died in 1355, control passed to his half-brother, Simeon Palaiologos.
So Castoria was just continuously the strategic prize everyone wanted. And finally, the Ottomans enter the picture. When did that pivotal shift happen, and what was the most, maybe, striking change to Castoria's social fabric under their rule?
That's a crucial question, because the Ottoman conquest, late 14th or maybe early 15th century, it wasn't just a change of flags. It fundamentally reshaped the city's identity.
How so?
Well, partly with the influx of nomadic Eurics. They were among the first Turks to settle there. But what really stands out is how rigidly the population then organized.
Like where people lived.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Turkish settlers mainly inside the fortified city walls. Christians predominantly in the eastern districts outside the walls, places called Doltso and Apazari.
Okay.
And the Jewish communities settled around what's now Almanoia Square. By the mid-16th century, city records show like 1,003 Christian families, 57 Muslim, and 17 Jewish families.
That's very specific. Shows a clear picture.
It does. And then the 17th century saw a big increase in the Turkish population, partly due to Islamized Turco-Albanians moving in.
Right.
And finally, just to round it off, in the early 19th century, Kastoria, like much of Western Macedonia, came under the control of the famous Ali Pasha.
It really sounds like Castoria has been this perpetual crossroads of cultures and empires, a city of layers, you could say.
That's a great way to put it.
And through all that political upheaval, conquest, liberation, one constant remained. In fact, it flourished. The city's amazing Byzantine churches. It's almost like these buildings were just quietly collecting the artistic echoes of every single era.
Exactly. They're like silent witnesses.
So let's step inside these living museums.
Absolutely. Castoria is remarkable. 19 surviving Byzantine churches. That's just, well, astonishing for a city its size. And they span from the 9th all the way to the 15th century.
A huge time frame.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is the variety you see in the architecture. The common types are, three-aisled basilicas and single-aisled churches, often with a narthex, like an entrance hall.
But then there's that really unique one, the Panagia Mavriotissa. I read that's a triconch church, which sounds quite rare. What does that mean architecturally?
Yeah, triconch. It means it has three semicircular apses sort of bulging out instead of just the usual one at the altar end. It gives it this distinct, almost clover leaf shape.
Ah, interesting.
It's quite rare for this region, yeah. It might hint at specific architectural influences coming in, or maybe just the unique vision for that particular church.
And how are they built? What kind of materials?
Typically, they used irregular stones, sort of whatever was available, interspersed with these neat double courses of bricks that give them a very organic, textured look.
Right. It's that rustic but charming look, almost like they built with, whatever they could find locally. Layering stones with these bands of brick. It feels very handcrafted.
It does. And the exteriors often have these intricate ceramic decorations, bits of pottery worked in, and blind arches that don't lead anywhere just for decoration. They really add a vibrant quality to the facades.
Okay.
But then you step inside, and that's where the real magic happens. These churches house frescoes of exceptionally high artistic quality.
So these murals are like a visual timeline of Byzantine painting, showing how styles evolved over centuries. Can you give us a sense of how they change?
Exactly. You can literally trace it on the walls. You start with the almost symbolic archaism of the Macedonian period figures, might seem a bit stiff, elongated.
Okay.
Then you move towards the expressionism of the Komnenian era. More dynamic gestures, more emotional intensity in the faces and poses.
Right, more feeling.
Yeah. And then you get to the expressive realism of the Palaiologan period. There you really start to see individual personality, psychological depth in the faces. It's like watching art history unfold right in front of you.
Wow.
And the earliest churches, the ones from the 9th to the 12th centuries, they're mostly clustered in the old castle area, today's Ikonomate district, and also in the Elisa district. These were likely the densest residential areas just outside the main castle walls back then.
Okay, that makes sense. But this raises an interesting puzzle, doesn't it? All these churches. Which one was the main cathedral during the Byzantine period?
Yeah, yes, the cathedral question.
I read that Agios Stephanos has this unique, large, built-in bishop's throne.
It does, which is a strong clue.
But the area around another church, Taxiarchis Metropolios, is considered by many scholars as a more probable site for the actual Byzantine metropolis, the main administrative center.
That's right. So there's a real scholarly debate there. We don't have a definitive answer, which just adds to the rich complexity of Castoria's church history.
Okay, let's shine a spotlight on some of these incredible places. What stands out about Agios Stephanos? You mentioned it's one of the oldest, mid-9th or early 10th century.
Yes, Agios Stephanos. It's fascinating because, as I mentioned, its frescoes have those two distinct layers.
Right, the two layers.
You've got the older, more stylized one, and then a later, much more expressive layer from the late 13th, maybe early 14th century.
And are there any specific paintings that are really notable?
Yeah, there's a portrait of a priest, Theodoros Limniotis, shown offering a little model of the church itself. It's a donor portrait.
Ah, cool.
And another depiction of someone described as the humble suppliant Georgios from 1338. Gives you these little human glimpses. But it's important to remember, early 20th century editions did alter its original form somewhat. That's often the case with buildings this old.
Preservation challenges.
Got it.
Okay, then there's Agioi Anargyroi. That's the largest Byzantine church in Kastoria, right? Built as a three-aisled basilica.
Correct, largest one. And it also has traces of two fresco layers, one from maybe mid-10th to mid-11th century, and a later one from around 1170, 1180.
And what's unique about it compared to the others?
Well, what's really unique among Kastoria's churches is that Agioi Anargyroi still has significant marble decoration. Column capitals, door frames. Marble was expensive, so this suggests, significant investment.
Right, show status.
Exactly. And its donor portraits, again, feature Theodoros Limniotis, this time with his family. So we see these recurring names, these prominent local figures involved in patronage across different churches, gives us a precious glimpse into the society back then.
And Panagia Mavriotissa. That monastery sounds amazing, just the location on the eastern shore of the peninsula.
Oh, the setting is stunning. The main church, the Katholikon, dates from the 11th century, and it has frescoes from the 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries, layers upon layers.
Wow.
But one of the most compelling things about Mavriotissa are its external frescoes, which is quite rare for frescoes to survive outside.
External, so on the outside walls.
Yes. And they're particularly striking. They show imperial figures, possibly identified as Emperor Alexios I Komnenos.
The one from the Golden Age.
That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Michael VIII, Palaiologos later on. These powerful images directly connect the monastery to big moments in Byzantine military history, imperial victories. It's like propaganda painted right on the walls.
Fascinating.
And nearby, there's a smaller chapel, Agios Ioannis Theologos, that was added much later, mid-16th century.
It's incredible how many of these churches also tell us about their patrons, the people who paid for them, like Agios Nikolaos Kaznitzis, a 12th century church. That sounds like another example.
It is a perfect example. It's named right after its founder, a man titled Magister, Nikephoros Kaznitzis. His portrait, along with his wife Anna, is right there among the frescoes.
So you see the actual people.
Exactly. It's typical of donor portraits from the late 11th, early 12th centuries. Shows us who supported these artistic projects and, frankly, how they wanted to be remembered, pious, and prominent.
Then there's Agios Nikolaos Sutsa, a smaller single-aisled church from the late 14th century. What makes that one stand out? Anything special inside?
Yes, it features a particularly rare iconographic theme. It's called the Royal Deesis.
Royal Deesis?
Yeah, normally a Deesis shows Christ with the Virgin Mary and John the Baptist interceding. But this one uniquely includes the entire Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, not just Christ. Very unusual.
Huh. Why would that be?
Good question. Theological reasons, maybe a specific request from the patron, we don't always know. But its frescoes also show stylistic links to other local churches, suggesting, again, this vibrant network of artists or workshops operating in the city.
Okay, next. Agios Georgios Vouno, 14th century single-aisled basilica. This one has several layers of frescoes too, 14th, 16th, 17th centuries.
Right, a long history of decoration.
But what's really intriguing, I read, is that it has these blank inscription plates above the entrances. Like, space is clearly meant for donor inscriptions, but they were never filled in.
Yeah, isn't that curious?
It really is. Makes you wonder what happened. Did the money run out? Did the patrons fall out of favor?
Exactly. We're left with this tantalizing historical mystery, literally etched, or rather not etched, into the stone.
Okay, and finally, one more key site, slightly outside Kastoria itself, Agios Georgios Omorphoklesia. You said this is one of the most important Byzantine monuments in the whole region.
Absolutely. Omorphoklesia, the name, means beautiful church, and it lives up to it. Its architecture is more complex, a cruciform, cross-shaped plan with a bell tower and a peristyle, which is like a covered walkway around it.
Sounds impressive. And the frescoes, more layers.
Oh, yes. Multi-layered, just like the history of the region itself. You've got bits from the 12th to early 13th century in the bell tower, late 13th century in the main church and narthex, early 14th in the exonarthex and outer narthex, and mid-14th in that peristyle walkway.
Wow, a real patchwork quilt of art.
It is. And it also has a very rare depiction of an anthropomorphic Holy Trinity, showing the Trinity with human forms. Plus, it houses a really significant wooden statue of St. George. So artistically, architecturally, religiously, it's incredibly important.
So we've journeyed through centuries of history and art, layer upon layer. Now, what does all this mean for Castoria today? How has the city managed or tried to manage this incredible heritage? And what challenges does it face now in the 21st century?
Yeah, that's the modern challenge, and it's a profound one. The city went through massive urban transformation, especially after 1923, with the influx of refugees from Asia Minor. That spurred new urban planning efforts.
Okay.
A cadastral survey, like a property map, was started in 1925, but unfortunately was never legally finalized, which kind of created a chaotic foundation for planning.
Right, not ideal. And then there was this urban plan by an architect, Georgios Kantolion, in 1929. It sounds like that was a major turning point, but maybe not entirely for the better, at least initially.
Well, it faced strong local objections. And when it was implemented, it led to the demolition of over 60% of the city's traditional houses.
60%, that's staggering. It really makes you think about the long-term cost of maybe short-sighted urban planning, even if it was driven by necessity at the time. It drastically altered the traditional feel, the fabric of the city.
Precisely. And initially, preservation efforts were really narrowly focused. They basically just saw the churches as valuable monuments and kind of neglected the historical urban context around them, the houses, the streets.
Right, they missed the bigger picture.
Thankfully, that approach shifted somewhat after 1983. There was a new law, 1337-1983, that aimed to protect entire traditional districts like Dolzo and Apazari, recognizing the value of the whole historical environment.
That's good. But even with those efforts, these churches still face constant threats, don't they? What are some of the ongoing challenges for these precious buildings right now?
Oh, absolutely. They battle environmental factors constantly. Humidity is a huge one, especially being near the lake. That causes efflorescence, salty deposits on the surface, and biological growth like mold and algae. All this causes damage and flaking of those delicate frescoes.
Yeah, water is always the enemy of old buildings.
Always. Plus, there's physical deterioration. Cracks in the walls, loss of structural material, and sometimes, unfortunately, original stonework gets covered up with modern plaster during repairs, which diminishes the historical look, the aesthetic value.
And it's not just the slow decay, is it? Modern life intrudes, too. Things like visible electrical wires strung across facades, uncontrolled weeds growing right up against the walls, even poorly placed trash bins. It all detracts from the visual appeal, doesn't it?
It really does. It breaks the spell, so to speak. Yeah. And then you have older structural additions, like big buttresses propping up walls. You see them at Agios Nikolaos Karitsis and Taxiarchis Metropolios, for example. They're necessary for stability, absolutely.
Yeah.
But they often block the view, hinder the aesthetic appreciation, especially if there are external frescoes hidden behind them.
And what about just getting in to see these places? How accessible are they?
That's another key issue. Access to some monuments, like Agios Dimitrios Oikonomou, is currently only by appointment. You have to arrange it beforehand, which severely limits public exposure, limits the chance for people to connect with these stories.
Yeah, that makes it tough for casual visitors or even locals. So given all these immense challenges, environmental, physical, aesthetic, access, what are the current solutions? What's being proposed for the future to protect Castoria's heritage? There must be a thoughtful way forward.
There absolutely is. And significant restoration and conservation efforts are underway and have been for years. For instance, back in 1987, they tackled the humidity at Agios Nikolaos Kaznitsis with re-roofing and better ventilation.
Okay, practical steps.
Exactly. Fresco conservation is ongoing work at sites like Panagia Mavriotissa. There was a big project there from 2005 to 2010, and currently at Agios Dimitrios Oikonomou. This involves really careful cleaning, stabilizing the paint layers, sometimes removing old, problematic coverings or varnishes.
Delicate work.
Very. And they're installing drainage channels around churches like Panagia Mavriotissa to try and pull groundwater away from the foundations. Basic, but crucial.
So beyond the physical fixing, enhancing the information and accessibility seems vital too. What are the plans there? How can they better engage visitors?
Yeah, that's a big focus. Proposals include putting up standardized, multi-level information signs at each monument, maybe using QR codes too, linking to digital resources.
Multi-level, like basic info for tourists, more detail for students.
It's exactly. Tailored information for different visitors, from school kids to, specialized researchers. And the idea is to link all this to a proposed digital platform, a website or app with comprehensive cultural material, really opening up the knowledge base.
I like that. Using tech to connect past and present. But it's not just about the individual churches in isolation, right? It's about how they fit into the city. So integrated urban planning must be part of it too. How to create a cohesive experience?
Precisely. You can't just restore the church and ignore the surroundings. So there are recommendations for redesigning the immediate areas around the monuments.
Like what?
Things like strategic planting, maybe deciduous trees that provide shade but don't block views or damage foundations, planted away from the buildings. Getting electrical cables underground. Removing ugly mechanical installations. Even encouraging the owners of adjacent modern buildings to use colors or materials that harmonize better.
Trying to blend the old and new more respectfully.
Exactly. It's about creating a respectful dialogue between the ancient treasures and the modern city they inhabit.
And finally, making it a truly engaging experience for people. What about those cultural routes you mentioned earlier? How would they work?
The idea is to create 3 themed cultural routes, like a historical route focusing on the timeline, a patron saints route connecting churches dedicated to specific saints, and maybe a grand historical route covering the major highlights.
Guided walks, essentially.
Yeah, guiding visitors through specific clusters of monuments, telling a connected story. And the proposals include offering free guided tours, maybe organizing special nighttime cultural events, concerts, talks to engage both locals and tourists. The goal is to promote all of Castoria's Byzantine treasures, not just the 2 or 3 most famous ones.
Get people off the beaten path a bit.
Exactly. Bring the past into the present in a really interactive living way.
Wow. Okay, so we've journeyed through Castoria's incredible past, from its strategic importance in all those Byzantine conflicts to its flourishing artistic workshops,
Right.
centuries of change. And we've seen how its 19 Byzantine churches stand as these enduring testaments to all that history, each one telling its own story through unique architecture, those amazing frescoes, and just the echoes of the people who built them, worshipped in them. It truly is a city of layers, isn't it? A place where art and history just intertwine at practically every corner.
It really is.
Right.
And Castoria's story, I think, is such a powerful reminder that heritage isn't just about, preserving old stones in isolation.
Right.
It's about integrating that past into the living fabric of a city. Finding ways for those ancient narratives to actually resonate with contemporary life.
Yeah.
It's really a testament to resilience, isn't it? This continuous effort to honor what came before while still shaping what comes next.
That's beautifully put. It leaves us with some big questions, really. What does it truly mean to honor and live alongside such profound history, day to day?
Yeah.
And how can we, just as curious explorers, maybe contribute, even in small ways, to ensuring these magnificent hidden gems continue to inspire generations yet to come?